May 1945. The Third Reich is collapsing on every front. The Soviet Red Army closes in on Berlin from the east. The Western Allies advance from the west. Nazi leaders retreat, scatter, or attempt to negotiate. Among them is Heinrich Himmler, Reichsführer SS, head of the SS and the Gestapo, chief of the concentration camp system, and one of the most powerful figures in Adolf Hitler's state. He tries to disappear into the chaos, disguised under a false identity. But within weeks, he is captured by the British, and in a brief moment inside an improvised interrogation room, he bites down on a cyanide capsule. Himmler dies on May 23, 1945. For many, that seems like the end of his story. But it isn't, because Himmler left behind something else. A family, a legal wife, a daughter, a mistress, 2 more children, and a name ranked among the darkest in modern history. The war was over. The regime had collapsed. But what became of the people he left behind? This is what happened to Heinrich Himmler's family after the war. Before Germany fell apart in 1945, Heinrich Himmler lived a double existence that shaped the post-war fate of his relatives. Publicly, he held multiple roles. Reichsführer SS, chief of the German police, head of the Gestapo, supervisor of the concentration camp system through the SS Economic and Administrative Main Office, and a central figure in deportations, forced labor, and genocide. By 1943, his power extended far beyond policing. The SS controlled internal security, racial policy enforcement, and large sections of German administration. Privately, Himmler was married to Margarete Boden. They married in 1928, before the Nazi Party seized power. Margarete, often called Marga, was well-educated, disciplined, and politically aligned with her husband's worldview. Their only child, Gudrun, was born in 1929. The family lived in Sess residences near Munich, and later at various locations tied to Himmler's official duties. But there was another part of Himmler's private life. In the mid-1930s, he began a long-term relationship with his personal secretary, Hedwig Potthast. Unlike many Nazi leaders' affairs, this relationship became semi-official within SS circles. Himmler arranged housing for Potthast and visited frequently. Hedwig gave birth to 2 of Himmler's children, Helga, born in 1942, and Nanette, born in 1944. These children lived separately from Gudrun and Margarete. Himmler visited them during inspections or while traveling away from Berlin. The arrangement was never publicly acknowledged, but it was tolerated among the highest levels of SS leadership. When Germany still appeared powerful, during the conquest phase of 1940 to 1941, Himmler's 2 households were sustained by the machinery of the state. That context would end brutally in 1945. By April 1945, Germany was militarily finished. Hitler refused surrender, and the Nazi leadership fractured into competing survival strategies. Himmler attempted his own path. He sought to negotiate with the Western Allies through the Swedish diplomat Count Folke Bernadotte. The effort failed. When Hitler discovered Himmler's actions, he expelled him from all political positions in late April 1945. From that moment, Himmler became a fugitive. He traveled through northern Germany under the false identity Heinrich Hitzinger, wearing a Wehrmacht field uniform. He carried forged discharge papers and hoped to disappear among surrendering soldiers. On May 21st, he was detained by a British patrol near Bremervörde. His papers did not withstand scrutiny. During interrogation, he revealed his true identity. Shortly afterwards, he bit down on a concealed cyanide capsule and died. British authorities confirmed his identity, photographed his body, and buried him in an unmarked grave. There was no public funeral, no grave for followers, and no trial, denying historians the courtroom testimony that illuminated other Nazi leaders. For the regime, Himmler's death ended his authority. For his family, it marked the beginning of a prolonged period of uncertainty, without protection, without property, and with a name inseparably linked to genocide. At the moment of Himmler's death, his legal wife and daughter were already in Allied custody. Margarete and Gudrun Himmler were detained by United States forces in late May 1945. They were regarded not as ordinary civilians, but as potential intelligence sources connected to one of Hitler's closest associates. Their detention followed standard Allied practice toward families of senior Nazi officials: intelligence extraction, legal evaluation, and security control. Both Margarete and Gudrun underwent repeated interrogations. Investigators documented personal relationships, property ownership, and political involvement. Neither woman was charged with crimes, but both were classified as politically suspect. Gudrun was only 16 years old. Intelligence reports noted her unwavering loyalty to her father's image, a loyalty she would maintain into adulthood. In her diaries and private statements, she referred to him affectionately as Papi. By late 1946, Margarete and Gudrun were transferred through a series of civilian internment facilities associated with former Nazi leadership. The legal outcome followed a familiar pattern. Wives and children were interrogated and classified, but not prosecuted. Once military investigations ended, the family entered denazification, the Allied process designed to categorize and reintegrate millions of Germans after the war. Denazification divided individuals into 5 legal categories, ranging from major offenders to exonerated persons. Margarete was not classified as an organizer, propagandist, or administrator. Her assessment placed her closer to the category of a follower, though classifications varied by region. Gudrun, as a minor, did not undergo the same legal process. In 1948, after nearly 3 years of detention and review, mother and daughter were released into post-war West Germany. There was no estate to reclaim, no position to return to. The SS hierarchy was gone. Property seized during the war was not restored. Their surname offered no advantage, only stigma. Margarete struggled professionally in the early years of the Federal Republic. She eventually retrained and worked as a nurse. Gudrun resumed her education and entered adulthood during the formation of democratic West Germany. In the 1950s, the Federal Republic stabilized politically and economically. During this period, Himmler's legal family built quiet civilian lives, shaped by caution and social isolation. Margarete avoided press attention and never remarried. Gudrun became the most publicly visible of Himmler's children. She remained devoted to her father's memory and rejected Allied and historical interpretations of his responsibility. In 1951, she married Wolf Dietrich Burwitz and adopted his surname. Over the following decades, she became associated with support networks for former SS personnel, including the organization known as Stille Hilfe, or Silent Help. The group provided legal and social assistance to former SS members facing prosecution or extradition. Gudrun avoided television appearances and major media outlets, but she remained active within these circles. She accompanied former SS veterans to court hearings and maintained long-term contacts within far-right and former SS networks. She lived in Munich for most of her life and never publicly renounced her father. Gudrun Burwitz died in 2018 at the age of 88. While the legal family followed this path, Himmler's mistress and their children lived very differently. Hedwig Potthast avoided public exposure entirely. She gave no interviews and appeared rarely in historical records. What is known comes primarily from administrative files and secondary testimony. She raised her children, Helga and Nanette, in a discreet and non-political environment. Neither child developed a public profile. Neither emerged within post-war extremist movements. Their strategy was anonymity rather than advocacy. Hedwig Potthast died in 1997 at the age of 88. Her children remain largely undocumented. The fate of Himmler's family reflects a broader historical pattern. After 1945, Allied authorities prioritized the prosecution of officials and decision-makers. Families were not targeted unless they held administrative responsibility. For many relatives of senior Nazis, the consequences were indirect but lasting. Property loss, social isolation, and silence as a means of survival. Denazification was uneven and temporary. By the early 1950s, most processes had ended. Former party members reintegrated into West German society. In the Himmler family, 3 long-term outcomes emerged: withdrawal into anonymity, quiet reintegration, and ideological preservation within small private networks. None returned to political power. None attempted to revive the Nazi state, but the burden of history remained. Heinrich Himmler escaped trial through suicide. His family did not face criminal punishment, but they lived their lives under the shadow of his name. There was no restoration of privilege, no public rehabilitation, only interrogation, denazification, stigma, and decades of careful silence. Their story shows that when authoritarian regimes collapse, the consequences rarely end with the leaders themselves. They extend into families, institutions, and generations. To understand the aftermath of the Nazi period, we must look not only at trials and perpetrators, but at how dictatorship leaves traces in private lives long after the regime has disappeared.